Hi, my name's Tim Ashworth. I'm the CTO of Dinkt, which is the online bike service history application. And I'm doing this video, it's a technical video for developers because I'm tidying up my code a little bit. And I thought this would be a useful thing to share. And also it would be helpful for me to look back at just in case I need to do this again. So not entirely selfless. But I'll just quickly show you the application Dinkt. So here you can see I'm running this locally at the moment, and this is so the external pages are just it's actually built on a PHP framework called Cake PHP, which I can recommend. And so the front end of the site is basically just lots of pages which are just served up by the server, and then we have our login. So after login, this is where we move into the slightly more JavaScripty part of the world, where we've got our Angular apps. So I'm just logging in as a supplier. So a supplier is someone who would basically a mechanic that fixes the bicycles for our clients. Ignore this data. This is all just some rubbish that I've put in there because, like I say, I'm running it locally. So you can see we've got a dashboard for our suppliers. I'll log in and show you. This is our client application, which is a bit simpler. Again, it's a Angular app. They're all Angular apps, and we've also got a fleet management part to the application, so people can look after their fleets of bikes and the service histories and manage their mechanics via this. So basically what I'm showing you is that we've got a number of different applications that are running here, but they all reuse the same components. They all have the same look and feel. Obviously you can see right away this is something which is multiple applications but with a shared common library. Also, the important thing to note is that you're being redirected based on your user type here. So your user type takes you to the correct place to the correct application. So that's all wired into via the Cake PHP backend. So what I need to do is I've got my application here. Ignore this folder. This was just me doing some preparatory stuff. But so this is where all of the site files live. And we have under this folder here, Dinkt. This is actually the core Cake PHP installation. So in here we've got our source files, so our controllers and models and view templates. We also have our web root, which is where we actually serve all our JavaScript from. And just outside this folder, we have our apps. So you can see we've got our client dashboard. This is our common library, our fleet dashboard, supplier builder, supplier dashboard. So you can see we've got a number of different applications that are all within this folder. Now, when I first originally set this up, this was, to me, was the most sensible thing to do because I wanted all the code in one place. I was pretty much the only developer working on it. So I've got all my code in one place, a sort of a mono repo, I think people call them now, if it's the buzz phrase. And then I've got a grunt file. So this grunt file actually runs the builds, and so you can see we're running builds and in the individual folders, and there's some more code in here which picks up the generated code and copies it into the web root, which is great. But there's a few things I'm not very happy about with this. So the Dinkt common library isn't really a npm library. The way it's set up at the moment is everything references back to the Dinkt library, but directly via relative paths. So I'm not very happy about that. I'd much rather have it be a proper standalone library. And also the other thing is that each of these libraries, they've got their own package.json. So that means they're pulling down their own node modules. So you can see I've got loads of node modules in all of the different projects, which isn't ideal. As you've probably worked out, this isn't scripted, so I may well wander around a little bit, but bear with me. And I've also just got to let my dog in, so hang on. There we go. So there we go, the dog's in. So that's the plan, is that what I'd like to do now is to extract all of my JavaScript code and my projects into a separate workspace, which is a new thing you get with Angular command line interface version 7, which is exactly what I want to do. I want to have a proper collection of the JavaScript code and extract it out of the main code, which also has all the PHP stuff in, because further down the line, obviously, I want to be able to hand over the back end to a back end developer and then have my JavaScript developers work on their individual bits. So I've kind of already started that. So I've created a new repository. I'm not going to go through creating a repository here, because I'm assuming that if you're an Angular developer, you're happy with Git. And you can see I've started to migrate things across, and I'll be referring back to this because I learnt a few things as I was doing it. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a new workspace and see how that all comes together. So if I flip back over to the Angular docs, so there's this very handy page here which is all about file structure of the workspace, the project. So this will show you the standard stuff in setting up a new project, but what we're interested in is multiple projects, which is actually just a bit further down the page. When you create a new project with Angular, it obviously creates all of the folders and the source files that you need. When we're doing a workspace, however, we actually want our projects to be a bit further down the tree. So we're going to use this new command, which has this extra flag which says create application false. So if I just quickly, so I've got a terminal window and I've created a in my documents folder, I've got a training there we go. So I've got a training folder and I've just created an Angular folder there, which you can see right now is completely empty. So if we just do ng new hello world, this will go off and okay, so I'm not going to bother putting routing into it. Let's just say we're using CSS. Just let this run. Just taking a little bit of time. Great, so there we go. If we have a look now, we've got our Hello World app. We can go into it. Let's have a look at the files we've got in there. We've got a README, all the stuff Angular, all the stuff you're expecting, and end-to-end testing, and we've got a source folder as well. So just to make this easy to have a look at, let's open Finder, and we'll go to, there we go. So we can see our Hello World, and we've got our end-to-end. Pull down the node modules we need, and we've got our source folder here. So in our source folder, that's where we got our app. And we can go ahead and run that. So we're in Hello World, ng serve. This shouldn't take too long to build. So we're running on localhost 4200. Boom, there we go. Welcome to Hello World. We've all done this. We're all very familiar with how this works. But we don't want these source directories, the end-to-end. We just want to have a folder where we can start to put things together. So I'm going to get rid of Hello World. Actually, no, I'll leave it so we've got the comparison of the different files. So we'll pop back over to terminal. So I'm going to stop serving, come out of Hello World. Oop, if I can type properly. No, what am I doing? There we go, lovely. So we can see Hello World. Now what we're going to do is use this new create application false flag. So we're going to create this app here, and I'll just call it well, I'll call it dinked workspace. Obviously, I've already created what I need, so I'll be throwing this away anyway. So new dinked workspace, and I'm not going to put the routing in. I will say about the CSS, just in case I want to do some common CSS. And we'll leave this to run. It should be a little bit quicker. Done. Excellent. So let's have a look at the different files. So in fact, I will go for... Oh dear. So we've got our Hello World files here. I'm going to open a new window, go to Documents, Training, Angular, Dinked Workspace. So here you can see all we've got in the Dinked Workspace are the basic files and the Node Modules folder. And that's it. So we don't have any projects. We can't serve anything. This is just ready for us to add our extra projects. So I'm going to go into our dinked workspace, look at the files, and here I'm going to want to add an application. So we're going to do ng generate, and I'm going to call it admin. Oh, yeah, application. Nearly missed that off. So ng generate application admin. I will add the routing here because this is going to be a real app. I like SCSS, so now we have a new folder created in our dinked workspace called projects. And in projects we have admin, and that's got all of our source files in. So if we drill all the way down into app, you can see we've got our routing, we've got our basic folders, structures, setup, assets, environments, all of that good stuff. So how do I serve admin? At the moment, because there's only one app in there, I can still just do ng serve. So if I run ng serve, running on 4200, let's go back and open that again. I'll leave this tab open this time. It's running welcome to admin, which is fantastic. So we've got our app served, and everything is still feeling a bit similar to a workspace which has just got one project in. But let's add a new one. So I'm going to come and stop serving, and I'm going to generate a new application. I'm going to call it client, which would be our client dashboard. I'm going to add the routing, CSS, goes ahead, it's building it. If we look in projects, you can see we've now got a client folder in here as well. But how do I serve that? If I do ng serve, it's just running again. There we go, it's refreshed, but it's still admin. So how do I get to my client application to be able to see that running? So if I come out, I do ng serve, and then I just add the project name. So now this will serve the client project. And if we have a look at it, we're now running the client app. So that's got us up and running. But the most important thing about what I'm doing right now is I want to have a library. I want to have a common library that I can share the code between both of these applications. Also, just whilst we're looking here, you'll notice we've got our node modules at the top. We haven't got any node modules folders in our admin or client, which is great. So they're all sharing common libraries from the node modules folder, which I like. Some people might want to do things more granularly, but I'm keen on doing it this way. So now we want to add our library. So let me come back into our application. And in fact, actually, just find the docs. So we'll go into the documentation. So we're looking at the multiple projects section. And then here are our library files. So let's go and look at the docs for creating libraries. And it's really, really simple. What you do is in the folder, you just have this command of ng generate library mylib. So I'm going to call it Dinked Common. Let that run. And let's bring up our projects folder again. And you can see we have our library, which is Dinked Common. So that's brilliant. We've got everything that we need running in here. So I'm just going to go and using the IDE, I'm going to open up this new folder. So I'm going to go to Documents, Training, Angular, Dinked Workspace. So I'm going to open up the workspace. And we have our projects. We've got our Dinked Common library with its source files. And we've got our admin and our client. So I'm going to go and add, so this is just a standard component in the library. I'm just going to add a little hello from Tim, just so you can see that I've actually changed it and done something. And then what I'm going to do is I've got a terminal window here. I like using the terminal windows within the IDEs just because I know I'm in the right folder. So in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a build on the library. So I'm going to do ng build. Now, without putting the project name in here, it's not going to know what to build. So it'll probably do admin because it's first alphabetically. But I'm going to do ng build Dinked Common. Great. So we've just built the Dinked Common library, and that will be in our dist folder. So we've got our dist folder here, and I want to use this in one of my projects. So let's use client. Let's go into client. Let's go to just the HTML, and let's say we want to import here lib Dinked Common. So what it's done is it has picked up the selector, and now I'm importing it this way, and it's coming up with a couple of ways of bringing it in. I can either pull it in from the library there, which it's picking up, or I can go directly to the individual component. That's exactly what I was doing before. I don't want relative paths. I want it to go via the library. So we'll just to make it easy for you to see, I'm going to do ng serve client. Right, now it can't resolve this. So it doesn't know where this app is. Even though we've built it, it doesn't know where it is. So what we're going to do now is a slightly cheeky workaround that I sort of worked out, which is I'm going to use npm install. So normally you'd use npm install to go and pull something from libraries on the npm repository. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to install from dist/dinked common. So just to show that this has actually done something, I'm going to open up my node modules and I'm going to look for Dinked Common. And here it is. So Dinked Common is now available. You can see it's a symlink actually, but it's a link directly into the dist folder. So now when I use the Dinked Common, I'm going to go and let's just update my app module so you can see I'm bringing in this Dinked Common module. I don't want to bring it in from the whole path. I'm bringing it in from Dinked Common, which is the name of the library. So if I save that now, I don't know if it will have refreshed. It has refreshed. So let's go back to the client, and you can see now I have pulled in my my component, and I'm using it in the client, which is fabulous. That's exactly what I needed to do. So now I can go ahead and start using this component all over the different applications that I'm going to be adding. So this has worked really nicely. I'm going to show you in the next video I'm going to record how to add services, because that was a little bit tricky. We need to mess around with this file here, the public API file, and which is what exposes the actual available public components to other projects which are pulling in the library, and then I'm going to show you how to play with the proxy, so I can go ahead and still connect directly to my local host. Okay, well, hope you enjoyed it, and hope you listen to the next video. Cheers, bye.